This podcast is the sole property of Proud Sports. Our thoughts and opinions are our own.
Yeah. They say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name. But they ain't got what's running through these veins. Say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name. But they ain't got what's running through these veins. Make way for the king.
It's a special edition Proud Panthers podcast, and I am Steven. Thank you for joining us as always. Part of ProudSports.com, PROWLED, sports.com. This podcast is all about High Point University basketball, and last night we had a game inside the Quabain Center where High Point defeated Canisius 93-50 and moved their record to 4-1 on the season. And honestly, after each and every game, we like to host a Spaces where we invite fans to come and be a part, to converse, talk about the game, share feedback and thoughts, and ask questions. And Elon had a tough night last night and a tough day today. If you know how X has gone starting this morning, it was shut down, messed up, and honestly, our Spaces last night was very much the same. It was not something that was very successful, kept glitching. And so, honestly, I gave up, called it quits on that, and decided, hey, let's just go live at another time. So we are live on X right now, as well as on YouTube, but all this will be recorded, so that way people can go back, revisit, share with friends. And we're going to be diving into that win against Canisius coming up in just a second.
High Point University, the premier life skills university, is ranked the #1 best-run college in America by the Princeton Review. Employers value HPU's real-world preparation. Students love unprecedented access to global leaders on High Point's inspiring campus. And parents appreciate HPU's God, family, and country values. Choose to be extraordinary at High Point University.
It's a Proud Panthers podcast, a special edition, because we don't normally do these on a Tuesday. Normally it's Monday, Friday release times, but given the fact that High Point played last night, we felt like it'd be a great opportunity to try to bounce on here and react to some of that, especially, like I said before, considering our Spaces pretty much was a bust. Now, what's really cool about doing this Proud Panthers podcast as a live is that if you are on X and following along with this and you ask questions or you have a comment or thought, you can just reply and it'll actually pop up here where I'll be able to see those. And we'll definitely be happy to do the same that we try to do on the Spaces, which is just interact with the fans and get involved a little bit. But I really wanted to get into the game last night that High Point had where they beat the Golden Griffins. It was a win that moved them now to 4-1 on the season. And for me, it was really a game of getting just back on track, everything back on the rails the way that it was prior to our visit to UAB. We had a team that was very well balanced with regards to, I think, what Coach Clayman wanted the MO, the DNA to look like before we went and played UAB. In my mind, what that was is it was a team that 1 through 5 would be very skilled with the ball, that 1 through 5 also on the offensive side, everybody can shoot the ball decently enough that it's not like we just have somebody hung out at the rim. And then on the opposite side of the ball, on defense, it was a team that really wanted to get a lot of deflections, wanted to be in passing lanes, wanted to force the opposing team into situations where either they had an abundant amount of turnovers or the shot selection that they were getting was a more difficult shot. It forced them to take things that you really don't want in college basketball. Could be a contested long-range shot. It could be something that's muddied inside the arc, but the goal was to not give up a lot of stuff easy close to the basket, nor a lot of things where they're just wide open three-point shots. Now, against UAB, all of that fell apart. For one reason or another, everything at the same night kind of went haywire. And honestly, Coach Clayman, when we visited with him on the Proud Panthers podcast earlier this week, he took a lot of that blame. You can go back and listen to it. He felt like preparation for the game against the Blazers, his staff had shared with him that maybe they went a little soft. Maybe they didn't really try to keep the pedal pushed down on the guys, getting them set for that game. So last night against Canisius, I really felt like a lot of those cornerstone attributes of this team were back in place. Now, I would be foolish if I didn't mention that Canisius and UAB are different caliber programs. Canisius is a Division I program. They're out of the MAC conference, but they, in Ken Palm rankings, are very low. And last season, they had a pretty rough go. And in the MAC conference, they're also projected not to be a very high finishing team. So it's not like they're on par with UAB as an opponent. But that doesn't mean that you still can't get some results out of the game that kind of go against a mindset that something is headed in a bad direction for High Point. In other words, I saw things last night against Canisius that made me feel like the UAB game had some fluky components to it, that it wasn't a moment where you need to raise the alarms and ring the bells and say, oh my goodness, if this is what we got all the time, we're in trouble. I'll give you an example of that. You have their top scorer for the Golden Griffins, and his name is Najanga. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Now, last night, you have to forgive the ad. Pretty much Najanga bottled up last night. He ended up with a total of 7 points, but 2 of 8 shooting, and 2 of those points came from the free throw line. That's in 32 minutes, and he averages somewhere close to 15 points a game. So even though the opponent, in terms of the caliber that they are as a team, may not be a great test to hang out there and say, hey, we just dominated a Power 5 school, or we just dominated one of the best mid-major teams out there. Even though that's the case, you can still take little things from a game like this and say, okay, even though the opponent may not be as strong, we obviously did what we had to do, a 43-point victory, which actually, that is the most points in terms of a win margin that High Point has had against Division I schools. So we set that record with that game last night. But even though we did ultimately what we had to do against and expected to do against a team like Canisius, you can still find little highlights and things. Now, last night, just like we often do or try to do after every home game, we had a chance to catch up with Coach Clayman, and this was his thoughts from the team's performance.
Coach Flynn Clayman joining us after the Panthers get back on track tonight, 93-50. Coach, give us your thoughts after the game.
Thought it was a better performance. Thought we played better on the defensive end. Thought we shot the ball better. Obviously, that's a given. But, we shared the ball better. We had a little better ball movement. Biggest focus now is just cleaning up our rebounding situation.
One of the things that was noticeable for me as I looked through the box score was the turnovers that we forced and also the turnovers that we limited. That is a better recipe coming from the win tonight.
For sure. I mean, we want to win the possession game, so obviously forcing turnovers and getting shots ourselves and not turning it over is a big part. And then the other big part of that is winning the rebounding battle. So we did lose that, and that's going to be a huge – if we can fix that part, then we're going to be really tough to beat. So that's going to be our focus.
Now, we, again, have another quick turnaround, headed out of town to an MTE tournament. First game coming up later this week against UIC. What is the plan as you guys look to that tournament setting?
Yeah, it's going to be a nice tournament. UIC is a really good team. Incarnate Word, who's in the tournament, just took Indiana down to the wire last night. So it's a good little tournament. We're going to see if we have what it takes to win a championship. That's obviously what we're looking to do at the end of the year in March in Johnson City. So this is the only chance we get at a tournament setting this year. But it's going to take all our depth, with the quick turnaround. But I feel good about it. But it's going to be a tough first matchup against UIC. Great team.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us after the win.
Thank you, guys. Go Panthers.
So that was Coach Clayman joining us last night after the game. And I do agree with Coach Clayman. The rebounding needs to continue to trend in a better direction. Truth be told, we didn't give up a ton of offensive rebounds, though. I do still think he would like to see us get more offensive rebounds for second chance points. I've heard Coach Clayman say this numerous times. He doesn't want us to become a make or miss team. And what he means by that is he doesn't want it to be a one and done on the offensive end. He wants there to be a lot of ball movement, which that's something else we really should highlight and talk about. From last night's win, I felt like the team really did a good job moving the ball, shifting Canisius side to side, because what is somewhat funny to someone like myself is you watch the UAB game and you see how Coach Kennedy, who deserves a lot of credit from this, really emptied the defensive playbook against our team. He said, we're going to have some times where we're going to press. We're going to have a 3-2 zone, a 2-3 zone, a 1-3-1 zone, some man. We're going to do all the different looks to try to keep High Point out of being just comfortable and letting them go. So what does Canisius open up with last night? A 1-3-1 zone. Now, that might be the Golden Griffins' MO all the time. I'm not going to be one to say that I follow Canisius basketball a lot. I don't. I'm a High Point fan. So I couldn't tell you if that's what they normally do, but I think that a little bit has to do with, hey, we watched the tape. We saw where UAB threw some zone looks at High Point, and their shooting was atrocious. It was 17% from three. So maybe we should open up with a 1-3-1 zone. Well, our offense, I felt last night, did a great job moving the ball side to side, keeping that thing popping, as Coach Clayman has said before, so that we get good, solid looks. Chase Johnston finally hit some threes to break that lid that seemed to be on the basket. Braden Hassan also had his share of them as well. When he came into the game, he went 3 of 4 from 3. That was his 9 points. And actually, Scotty Washington came off the bench last night. And I knew going into the game that was a decision that the staff had made to put Terry Anderson into the starting lineup and move Scotty into a role where he would be coming off the bench. Because Spaces was such a bust, I'll share this again tonight. Scotty being shifted to coming off the bench I feel like can really free him up. When you're in the starting lineup, just depending on who that player is, everybody handles those things differently. For some players, if they're in the starting lineup, they have much better success because they're ready to just get off to a good, solid start into the game, hot from the get-go and ready to rock. For some players, though, being a starter means added pressure. It means I really got to perform here. Now, all of a sudden, your hands are doing this and your mind is clogged. And I think that Scotty, well, even last night with his 9 points, is an improvement for him from the first few games, that it allows him to get out there after some of the initial minutes have happened, maybe not as restricted on his own self, to just play free and let it go. So all in all, from last night, what I saw that impressed me most was the way that we limited the turnovers and the way that we got back to forcing turnovers and steals. I've tried to share, and actually in the media room last night, I asked Chase this question. Chase Johnson was one of the players after the game was over, after he scored 15 points. He was brought into the media room with Coach Clayman, and also Rob Martin was there. He had 17 points last night. And because Chase was in there and he is a shooter, I decided to ask him about how, as a shooter, you break out of something that is like a slump. When things just aren't falling, do you just keep shooting? Do you just keep going after it until you shoot your way out of it? Those nights are going to happen. Those games, they're going to come. A lot of times, and Coach Clayman shares this viewpoint because he and I have talked about it, it's most likely to happen on the road. It can also happen in tournament settings. So it'll be interesting to see how that may go later this week as we play UIC in Daytona. But when those off times happen with the offense, with the shooting, how do you combat against that? And I feel like it falls back on the other things that I just mentioned that were keys for me against Canisius last night. If you protect the ball and you're not turning it over, that's one component. Now, last night we had 5 turnovers, much less than the 15 we had against UAB. The other component to it is, though, if you on the defensive end are still making it difficult on your opponent, you're forcing turnovers, you're getting steals, you're getting deflections. Deflections is a big number that High Point staff keeps track of. Now, I don't have that number directly in front of me, but what I can tell you is, just by talking with Coach Clayman, and he shared it with us on the podcast, that during Jacksonville, they didn't get as many deflections as he would like. And he said, if we do that at UAB, we're going to be in trouble. Well, they did. They didn't get the amount of deflections that they wanted, and there was trouble. But last night, he shared that we got those deflection numbers back up to where the coaching staff would like to have them. Those are the things that are going to make us competitive, even when it's just an off night in a lot of ways that you would like it to not be. And so that was something from playing a team where you really should beat them. It's a matchup that is favorable. All in all, if it's on paper, you look at it and you say, this shouldn't even be a contest. It should be an easy win for High Point. Well, it was. It was a 43-point win. Setting records, making a lot of things easy. But it also has to be validated with some of these things. And that's the things I gleaned from that win is, okay, that is the recipe that we have to continue replicating in order to remain successful and move from 4-1 to 5-1, hopefully against UIC. I'll spend a last couple of minutes because we're previewing that game as well. It takes place on Thursday afternoon, 2:30, where High Point is in Daytona, and they're taking on UIC in that first round matchup, if you will, for that MTE tournament. And I just want to share, MTEs for me are one of those things. It can be very, very similar to what we saw in the Cayman Islands last season. They're just set up for fun, to be honest with you. And I don't know that as the type of fan that I am, where I want to see wins and I want to see success, I think there's not as much about this that needs to be fun. It's more of a profession, and this is a job, and we've got to, we got to really bear down and do what we got to do. Kind of goes back to Coach Clayman saying that his staff share with him he doesn't need to go as easy in preparation for some things. And I'm not saying that they are for this MTE tournament, but an MTE tournament really, and I've shared this, I'll do it to ad nauseum, it's taking college age group of guys out of their normal routines and expecting them somehow to remain consistent and remain professional and remain doing what is required for the best success, the best outcome. And in order to really do that, if you're in the Cayman Islands or you're at Daytona, I haven't been to Daytona very often, so I can't speak to that as much, nor have I really been to the Cayman Islands. But the Caymans, obviously a very beachy scene. And last year we've had questions here on the Proud Panthers podcast about this, or on Spaces after that. Hey, there's pictures of our guys out on the beach and they're relaxing and they're doing that stuff. Well, honestly, it is what you signed up for with the MTE tournament. It's what you're going to get. You're going to a place that you're normally not at. These players may have never even experienced something like this, and you're asking them not to go out of the hotel room. You're asking them not to do anything else other than just be stuck and locked away in a basketball gym. It's just not going to happen. It's a dream. That's a pipe dream. What really is going to happen is they're going to, play basketball games that I think the team views as important. I know that Coach Clayman would view these games as important. It's everything right now is preparation for March, preparation for later. And so a tournament like this does help with that. You're playing a couple of games in just a few days' time against different teams. And so it is really good opportunities to work on scouts against different teams in a shorter period. It's good opportunities for spreading out the depth of a bench and saying, okay, we got to get through 80 minutes of basketball over 2 or 3 days. So we got to really work our guys and use them strategically here. So all of that is good prep. And I think that is realistically what will happen with our High Point team when they're at these tournaments. But at the same time, I also know that what is happening is they're going to enjoy themselves. They're going to do a little sightseeing. They're going to go out and eat at different places. The players may get a little bit of free time to go do whatever it is that they're going to do. And all of that, in my opinion, I hate to be like the Grinch here, but it leans heavier on not necessarily being as successful as you normally would be against the same opponents in your home facilities, or maybe even at their facility. So I'm interested in seeing how that plays out for us this season. Now, last year with the Caymans, it didn't work out so great. And Vincent Brady, who's on this roster, can tell you how that didn't happen for High Point. So we're hopeful that maybe he can share some wisdom there with the guys, and we can try to change the results this go around. We'll see on Thursday with that first game. We appreciate you, though, like I said, being a part of this with us, our reaction, and looking ahead to that game. We hope that you'll remain to visit us at proudsports.com. And, of course, join us on Friday for the next Proud Panthers podcast.
Is it really me? Gotta check and see my legacy like royalty, and I act like it. If you know better, act like it. Look at me now, they can't hold me down. So give me the crown. They say I walk like a king, talk like